I have no idea what session number this is anymore. It's well above 100 now. But does anybody remember what happened in broad strokes the last time we met?
6 weeks ago.
Yep.
Didn't we pick up, was this the one we picked up the tomes? We picked up books? I know I
Yeah,
picked up
so
some
we
books.
we
Yeah.
met the Southern Sage, and he with through his servants allowed us access to his library. I know Clave made a shadow copy of the one by that guy Corsair, right? Coursera.
Coursera.
Yeah. And we were looking for information on what we have before us. And we needed to decide if we're going to face the Efreaks, or if we're gonna be going to, I forget all of the options, but there were a couple of, there was a fork in the road essentially in terms of what we could do next.
Yeah, we were gonna take it. Whatever the fork was, we were taking it.
Well, he also you also asked about, and the Southern Sage revealed to you what the actual location of the lost city of Dohat Bajar was.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like surrounded by your kin or something like that.
No, it's like
Not
between
not surrounded, yeah, whatever.
It's between two ancient tombs. And it's sort of well off to the east of the Warmlands. It's marked on the map now, so you could see where he was talking about,
I
near
just
the
did.
ruins of Rarimos.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, it's currently like it's been moved to another plane.
Right, that's true. So it is sort of it is not in our plane. What he had said, the complication to it was that in order to get into it, you have to basically somehow find a way into the dimension in which the changelings all live, or at least this one offshoot group of the changelings live, because it's in that same plane with them, that same level dimension of existence. To do that, he said, you'll have to find either you have to find one of the keys to get in there. He didn't really tell you what the keys looked like, but I assumed afterwards, I just forgot about that little detail, what the key actually was. But it is, he would have shared that it is a crystallized Rakshasa eye that looks a bit like a ruby, but you find the path to get from the mundane world into that particular dimension by finding a point where you can cross over between the planes. And then looking through the eye of the Rakshasa, you could see the path that will lead you there. But he said to get one of those, you either have to find a changeling who has one and take it from him, or obviously Mordenkainen would still have some, since he's the one who initially moved all the changelings there.
Could we also just find a Rakshasa and just kill them and take their eye?
That wouldn't be a crystallized Rakshasa eye, so it's a prepared Rakshasa eye.
We get that process.
Yeah, although a Rakshasa eye
in
and an
writing?
action point probably would do it.
Crystallize it.
Yeah.
Like flash crystallize, just like a large fireball or something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
Flash fry.
Or maybe it's like freeze drying it.
Or it's like lightning. Like lightning. Like whenever lightning strikes the sand, it makes that glass, right?
Fulminate.
Maybe
Or just cone of cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he suggested finding a key in, like, you might either go to the area of the Great Colony, as that's where you're more likely to find changeling who would have the key, or you could go to essentially the place where Mordenkainen is still in charge, and that's in the realm of the dead, which itself is another little demi-plane, but it's one that Aurelia can get into using her horn.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting in there is one thing though, right? Like, then we have to find them there.
Right, you would have to find him. Or someone else who knows something about these keys, because there are also 100 changelings who serve him. So
Well, I mean, but we can get to the Great Host
it's the great
Right.
colony, you mean?
or Great Colony, whatever. Yeah.
So you know where the great colony, the sort of the where it would be if it were in this world. You're not sure
Right.
what is there in this world, but in order to get in and out of the great colony, people do, changelings often physically travel over the Sea of Glass to this point so that they can get to the great colony. So
Isn't it the same area where the giant pillar of flame is erupting from?
right, that is where the pillar of flame erupted from initially.
So yeah, it's either that we deal with Ifrit and our chance the Great Colony, or we chance the City of the Dead.
So yeah, so that was the information that you got. You had to go to either the Mordenkainen's realm or to the Great Colony, so that you could get a key to get into this realm and then travel over to where Dohat Pajar actually is, to where the ruins have been laid.
So I
then-
think we roughly decided that the Great Colony was perhaps our better bet, or at least Clave might have some interest in that.
Clave definitely does. He feels responsibility to his people, and with the Pillar of Flame and knowing that Ifrit has been released, he is fearing that his people are in danger. But at this point, Clave would also raise to the group as a reminder, we were also tasked to help the Dragonborn and the Empire face off against the giants. And they're expecting us at the Tefnut Oasis.
Yeah. So we have to. How long do we think we might need with that? Because we know they were still traveling for a long time.
Right. So yeah, not to jump too far ahead, but the rest of that prior session, you left the library and began to sort of travel back down the road you came. Not being entirely sure when you get back to the beginning how you then transit back into the spirit realm to get back to the Greats of Sule, but imagining, since nothing else was mentioned about it, that it's probably just going to be that there is a way to do it. You then crossed a river that you had crossed on your way to the library, but as you crossed it, you were attacked by a giant hydra that initially sort of looked like just giant sea serpents rising up out of this water. But quickly you realize that they're all actually attached to a body that was just submerged and hidden in the darkness of the water. You lured it out onto land though, and were able to kill that. You traveled on a distance from there, and then you decided to rest, and that's actually where we ended. You're still in the same realm, essentially, of perpetual twilight. You can see stars in the sky overhead, and the moons and the sun are sort of constantly cycling and whirling above you, seeming to spiral in towards the center, towards just the dark moon, Rishon, which is doing a sort of lazy circle in the center of this very intricate set of movements. The moons themselves do look as if they're spiraling in, but somehow, no matter how long you watch, despite the very clear impression of them spiraling in, you never actually see them quite reach the dark moon. So you all have a long rest, and you're all basically back at full at this point. As you are sleeping though, do you have like some sort of or do you have a watch? I don't remember.
I think we made it back to the maze thing that Clave had made before.
Right,
Pretty sure
that
we
makes
made it
sense.
back, yeah.
And also I have the keen mind feat, so I'm able to tell time or keep track of time, I think.
As for watches, I mean, we probably should have watch.
Yeah.
I don't remember you having a watch like when,
watch is in like a guard.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you
It's
meant
like-
like a timekeeper.
now I don't understand why you thought it was important. You could tell the time.
Yeah. Hey,
Yes,
hey,
yes,
I'm
we know,
having a
Clave. You're
migraine.
very
Give me a break.
impressive.
Well, I just thought like maybe
Still very
Clave was
useful,
like,
yeah.
maybe Clave was like, no, I don't go to bed till 9:30.
Exactly, on the dot, but I will fall asleep instantly.
And it's 7 Wapners on, and we've got to watch Wapner.
Gotta watch my shows before I go to bed. I'll take first watch. I'll take last watch, sorry. Last watch is what the one I always take.
Right.
I'm an early sleeper, right?
Yeah, T-Hole, I think we'd set up watches, and T-Hole would volunteer to take first watch.
Who's taking second watch?
Clave can take second.
So Aurelia, you're taking third.
Yeah, I got third.
So as the night passes, Aurelia, you begin to like keep looking around you. I mean, there's this giant maze now that was the maze something you could see out of?
Not traditionally.
Right, but
So
this
the
is
way that
Clave.
I remember it is it was a metal dome with concentric domes within it that also had a maze. So no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think T-Hole had to go outside to see anything, and to
Or
peek, but
or maybe I had an observation post at the top. If not, I can always use an action to just change the illusion to make one.
Right. I don't think there was like a complete opaque dome. I think the maze was what was protecting you, just because I know that Faye lady got in. And I would have at
Right.
least considered how she did that. And I don't
She
remember
dug.
doing that. Yeah.
Something dug up under the
Well,
ground. That's how we got attacked.
the insect creatures dug. But
Mhm.
the one woman who T-Hole was saying, like, I gotta go pee. And then
I
you
figured
Sarah-
she just got her hooks in while he was still outside the dome. That's just what I assumed.
no, she made her way in a distance before she affected him.
yeah,
But in any event, so Aurelia, make me a perception check. Everyone else can make me a perception check at disadvantage.
Okay.
right.
There's my disadvantage.
Kurt, can you make the check for me?
Sure.
I can't access my character sheet right now.
I am looking at my display version. Hold on.
Tough Nut Oasis. Sounds like a biker bar in one of like Peter's worlds.
Okay, so Zarius and Aurelia, you begin to hear Zarius, you wake up hearing like this sort of very low screeching sound and like a light shuddering. And it just seems to be coming from all around you. I mean, all around you is essentially this dome that's over the
Right.
top of you. But you feel like initially it sounds like a little high-pitched whistle. And then it quickly just sort of turns into a very light shuddering. that seems as if it's increasing in intensity.
I just look to Aurelia, like pop up, look to Aurelia. Let's
I
wake
look
them.
over at I look over at Zarius.
We should wake them.
Turn my head.
You two
You
can
hear
make
it.
me an investigation check to see if you can figure out what it is.
Can I just assist? I'll help out so you have advantage because I'm not gonna be useful. It doesn't matter.
So
You got that
Aurelia,
nat 20 is what happens.
after listening to it for a couple of seconds, you realize it is almost as if the dome above you is going to collapse.
Yeah. I'm already waking people up. Get up. Get up, get your shit, get out.
Yeah.
Get your shit, put it in a bag, get out of here.
I mean, it's an illusion, so it's not gonna like collapse in and then like break.
It's an illusion that's been made into a real physical thing, though.
It's a
You
real
can't touch
boy.
And it can technically be broken.
Yeah, it is a real boy. Yeah.
Can I cast would I be able to cast tiny hut with that if it fell in, would it just fall around it or no?
So if you cast Tiny Hut, presumably if it fell in, it wouldn't crush you. It might land on top of the tiny hut, but the tiny hut's virtually indestructible.
Okay.
Then we,
Alright.
well, okay. Well, it won't be, then it would be okay if that happens. Because then we can make it illusion again and not crush us.
Yeah, I mean, if it starts falling, I would ready an action to change the illusion to erase that section of the dome.
I mean, we can all prepare and just have you drop it right here.
Yeah.
That's an option. I don't know if it's the best option. Whatever it is appears to be breaking through.
Yeah, I mean, you would gather just from the fact that the sound is coming from every direction at once that it must be a pressure that's being applied to at least large portions of the dome. Like it's not like one spot is being pushed is under this pressure.
Can you just make
Although,
it
yeah,
transition?
although it's a dome, so maybe the pressure's just being spread out.
Yeah. When you wake everybody up, T-Hole, his eyes will pop open, and like hearing that there is danger, or that you like get up now. Like he doesn't move, but you see his arms, his astral arms like come out of his body and then just like push him up, and like till he stands up. So he doesn't like lift a finger.
Mm-hmm.
I was envisioning you saying his astral arms come out and snake over and grab the edges of his blanket and pull it around him, and he goes back to sleep.
No, instead it's something honestly a little more sinister looking.
His astral arms have made him even lazier.
He's gonna grow 2 more, and then he can just like gorilla walk with some of them and then punch with the others.
It's great what an extra pair of hands will do.
His legs are gonna wither away, and
Yeah. T-Hole in his later years is just like fat sitting in front of a TV. His astral arms are holding his beers.
But he's summoned his arms and his visage, and he's fully encased in glow and ready to go.
So as you're preparing for this, you begin to hear the sounds. It sounds like crashing. It's, all being filtered through this dome, so you can't see what's going on, but you do hear what sounds like distant explosions outside the dome. They don't seem to be hitting the dome directly, though. This is something else. But the sound of the stress on the dome is getting louder as time goes on. And
Um,
you know, Clave, you can make either an Arcana or an investigation check if you want to see how long the dome is going to hold up.
yeah, I'll do Arcana. Do you mind making the check for me?
Nope, I will not do that. No, there we go. 21. So you would gather that whatever it is must be pretty strong because it's not like you made the dome weak. But it probably will last several more minutes, maybe 10.
So in that case, I will alter the illusion to create a staircase into the ground and begin tunneling underneath the dome to a point outside the dome. And I'll let everybody know, hey, the dome's not gonna last. It's about to come down. I don't know what's out there doing it, but we only have a few minutes, so we need to get out as soon as we can.
So as this tunnel opens up in the ground with a staircase down,
Mhm.
you immediately feel there is a rush of wind from all around you that shoots into the tunnel.
How is this possible?
And that is actually the first moment when you realize that slowly just the air pressure around you has been going up and up.
It feels like this place is collapsing.
Let's leave.
The whole realm is
is-
collapsing.
Is the air pressure coming from the tunnel such that it's like gale force winds coming at us, or is it like
No, it's equalized now, but it was the other way. It was the air around you rushed into the tunnel because when you cleared this nice open space with nothing in it, the high pressure air that you're currently in moved in
I
that
see.
direction. But it equalized, after a second or two.
Okay, so chew gum if you got it, pop those ears, and let's skedaddle.
Yeah, T-Hole would make his way through the maze, or if Clave is gonna start deconstructing a quicker exit.
They just made a tunnel.
Yeah, go through the tunnel.
Yeah. Clave would go into the tunnel, but he would stop a little bit in, and after everybody went through, Clave would close the top of the tunnel. And also he would change the illusion so that there were lights all along the tunnel so that we could see where we're going.
So was this dome like the biggest dome you could make? What was like the size of the dome? Like a mile or something small?
It wasn't a full mile sized dome, although that would have been a pretty awesome flex. Uh no, probably like, you know, maybe 200-foot radius. Or
Okay,
wait,
so
well, about the size of a football field.
so yeah, you're able to make it out from underneath the dome even before before it collapses. So where is your tunnel ending? It's just another staircase up, or what does it look like?
Yeah, it's gonna be another staircase up. I haven't actually created the uh opening yet.
Okay.
Just because I wanted to be sure that there was some safety. So I probably wouldn't open a complete pathway up, more like maybe like a little section, like a manhole cover, so that somebody could like push it up and just
I was
kind
gonna
of
say like a
see.
periscope or
Yeah, well, yeah, let's do Periscope. That makes a lot more sense.
Suddenly a submarine rises. Periscope. Can you do that? Can you turn the whole ground into water? And then we're in a and then we're in a submarine?
I could turn the whole ground into the water. I don't know if I can make a submarine.
A submarine vehicle.
He could make a thing that looks like a submarine, but it wouldn't necessarily like have a motor that could move you.
Row it somehow.
If we're getting a
Pedaled.
submarine, I'm Ringo.
It's like pedal powered and there's like a flip.
So
I'm sure there's
you
a
are
mechanism
now
for this.
you're all now at the end of this very well lit tunnel. Now that you've noticed it, you still feel the pressure bearing around you from every direction at once. But now there's a periscope.
I'll look.
Okay, so is this like, how fancy is your periscope? Does it look up or only like around?
So it's I don't know how it would, but yes, it would be able to look in all directions.
Yeah, I mean, how familiar is Clave? I'm surely Clave is like familiar with lensing, with being an illusionist.
Yeah.
So he's put a convex lens at the end so that it captures, or it's like a fisheye look.
Okay. Yeah, I would do that then.
So in the landscape around you, you can see, first of all of the trees on this path are all bending over as if they're bearing some incredible weight. They're all pointed in different directions, though. So it's not as if it's wind that's pushing them over. It seems as if something's almost like they're just, far too heavy for their own weight to stand up. Around you in the distance, you do see plumes of dust clouds rising up from explosions. But it only takes a minute or two before you see some object fall from the sky and slam into the ground. And you realize, at least from the look of it, it looks almost like a star has fallen from the sky.
Okay. Okay. So it's like a meteor strike. It's like a meteor fall here.
I mean, that's what it looks like, except for the anything that's less strong than a tree is any plant that's less strong than a tree is completely flattened and on the ground. The trees look like they're under tremendous weight.
Um,
Are we on another, is this
Can I tell
another
how far?
plane? Sorry.
no,
Yes,
yeah.
this is a different plane.
Okay.
This is essentially the hot jungle world where the southern sage lives.
Okay.
Can we, and sorry if you said this, but do we have a sense of, can we tell like how big the meteor is?
With like a fisheye lens and it being like a long distance away, I would say you wouldn't imagine it was super big. It was just a star, not like something huge.
Gotcha.
I imagine stars being very large.
I mean, so in this world, everyone
yeah.
imagines stars are just these little
Yeah.
like paintings attached to the edge of the crystal sphere.
Yeah, I gotta detach how I imagine them from what the character would imagine them as. It's like look around. Seems like stars are falling. We should continue to move.
Yeah, as you're watching, though, you do then begin to see what looks like snow falling.
Or ash.
Yeah, you're not entirely sure. It could be ash.
Is it falling near?
Yeah, it's falling around the periscope.
None of it land on the lens.
It's not sticking to the lens. Yeah, you can't identify what it is basically by looking through this. It's just little motes of something sort of white.
I agree. We need to leave either before this this realm collapses because either before this realm kicks us out or this realm destroys itself. Our stay, we are no longer welcomed.
We should continue on to the edge of your
I can,
illusion. Yes.
I can extend the tunnel about another half mile maybe, but that's about it.
We'll have to.
Yeah, I guess there's nothing. There's probably no way to tell if there's like an epicenter to this, like a focus
I
to
mean,
where it's at.
not that you can see.
Yeah.
I mean, I would also say, are you continuing to look?
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch as long as we're here, standing here, I'm going to continue to look and watch while we discuss what's going on.
Okay, so make me another perception check. So as you're watching, you realize that although it's a slow thing, you do see a tree snap and fall over, broken at the middle. And you realize that the pressure is probably still increasing as the trees all slowly bend lower and lower.
Okay. And can we tell nothing else about what's in the sky?
Looking, if you look directly up into the sky, initially you don't see anything. It seems to be a more or less cloudless day. You don't see anything that resembles a cloud in the sky. As soon as you swing the periscope up directly overhead, where you can see the sun and the moon doing their weird spiral pattern, you notice that one of the moons appears to have broken and has gotten a lot larger. And you see it appears to be the source of the ash or snow that you had seen before, as it is breaking up and slowly precipitating out over the top of, as far as you could tell, the entire plane, as far as you can see.
Yeah. Okay, got it. So okay. I just like, oh, I see. How long can we stay here underground?
The rest of your lives.
Until seems the moon is falling,
Then
or at least parts of it.
we
The
must
fuck you
leave.
mean the moon is falling?
Have a look.
Slave looks.
You see the silver moon Gleondar has shattered and is sending particles towards the ground in a vast stream. It appears as though the moon itself is being crushed and disintegrating. The other ones also, you would notice, they're no longer wheeling around as fast as they were before. They all appear to be sluggish and slow and under similar strains. They just haven't broken yet.
So
These moons that are only in this realm, but are these only in this realm, or are these also in our
Uh,
world?
These are they appear to be identical to the moons from your world.
Okay,
They don't move in the same way. They weren't in the same pattern as you're used to seeing them.
gotcha.
Clay would take a step away from the periscope and go, huh, the moon is falling.
Either the originator of this realm has died, or we have made them angry. Perhaps
Let's
something
not
from the
jump to
outside is making it collapse.
Let's not jump to conclusions. We don't know anything about this place. This may be no more strange than a thunderstorm.
I suppose.
Isn't the Southern Sage the ruler of this realm?
He never leaves his cave, so I do not know.
Well, we can stay. I mean, my illusion will remain for another 9 days or so, 8 days. So if we need to wait this out, we can for now. So long as at least this tunnel's integrity can be maintained. But if the moon is falling, that may not be possible.
I will try again in the morning to see if my deity can more swiftly move us.
That's right. We went to the gate or the area where we entered the tear into this realm, and there was nothing there.
No, you're not. You're about halfway to that. You're about halfway between the library and that spot.
Gotcha.
So that's why I was saying that you're not 100% sure the tear will still be there.
If we can manage to at least make it to the entrance to this realm where we entered before hunkering down, sitting in an illusion waiting for the moon to fall seems like a fool's errand.
Well, let's at least get to the edge of my illusion so that we can have more options.
And as Clay says that, you all hear a cataclysmic shattering as the dome behind you collapses inward, buckling, the entire structure coming down upon where you were sleeping not long ago.
I'm gonna put a wall up between us and the dome just in case there's any debris shooting out through the tunnel towards us.
T-Hole will shield his shield, like pull up or like move one of his astral arms to like try to block any illusion, heart like realized illusion particles, shards. I that just my point is stated. Let's continue.
Did we actually get a long rest? This was like third watch.
Right. Yeah, you could say you got the long rest.
All right.
And it's about this time when you all realize it's getting slightly harder to breathe.
Yeah, Clave is gonna extend the tunnel all the way to the edge of the illusion.
To make sure I got no spells that'll be helpful here.
All right, let's go. Let's get as far as we can.
Yep. Teal's not gonna run, but he's gonna walk as fast as he can without panting.
Clave is running.
So everybody make me a con save.
Make mine, Kurt.
Yep.
Hey.
Oh, that was not good. My roll for Clave was not good.
I'll use an action point.
That was worse. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Yeah, I'll roll with it.
So as Clave is running, his legs buckle under him, and he falls to the ground and can barely get up. And he is now hobbling forward at half speed.
Can I tell what's doing this exactly?
You could feel it all around you. It is if something is trying to crush you.
Do this. Will this help?
Clave will shout or he'll like try in a out of breath, he'll say, I think it's the gravity.
Um, do I think that perhaps an enhance ability full strength might help us with this crushing weight?
I mean, it certainly would help you to keep moving. It would make all of the effects you felt so far are just your muscles are pushing against what feels like an increased force of gravity. So
Right.
strong
It's just
would be
that there was a
better.
con save, so I wasn't sure because this full strength is strength checks.
Right.
So I wasn't
No,
sure.
I would say that would work.
All right. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cast it at 5th level so that I can get everybody.
Mhm.
But yeah, so bull strength, advantage on strength checks, and has their carry capacity is doubled. Maybe that'll help.
So with that, yeah, Clave can move at regular speed again. But you
Thanks,
still
Darius.
feel it all around you.
Man, with that, like T-Hole would feel like beyond an ox because he has like gauntlets of ogre strength, so he has like strength of 19 with the bull strength. So he's just like feeling invincible at the moment.
An ogre bull. Not to be confused with an orgy bull.
Or Bulger.
I cannot imagine what the monster stat for a bulger would be.
I think I got me a new creation to make.
Yeah.
New monstrosity to enter the world.
Or, perhaps feeling as strong as he does, it would give T-Hole a bulger.
Yeah.
So since you're moving at regular speed again, it takes you about 15 or 20 minutes to make it to the edge of the illusion and the tunnel.
So what do we see as we get to the tunnel or the edge and we can see out down the path?
It's up to Clay.
So
He's
yeah,
gotta
over
open
the
it up,
course,
right?
right, that's true. Are you having it open outward or another periscope or what?
Yeah, I'll start with another periscope just to make sure it's relatively safe and there's nothing on its way down to strike us from the sky.
So who's looking?
I'll look.
It looks very much the same. All of the trees in this area have broken and snapped and are on the ground. So the path is completely littered with logs at this point. The snow appears to continue to be falling. It is definitely accumulating as just a sort of gray crud along the ground. It is a sort of silvery color, which is the normal color for the moon you saw breaking up. So further confirming that is probably what this is. You
Yeah.
generally, you don't see anything falling, but watching the occasional star fall from the sky, you realize you probably won't get much warning if one happens to crash right next to you, as it seems as if it goes from just a pinpoint of light into the sky down into an explosion of the ground in less than 5 seconds.
So let's use our wind walk. Can we do wind walk here?
Theoretically, I don't know how this pressure will affect it. Like condense us
mean-
very rapidly.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll be at least faster.
Maybe, but we could try. I'll start the process. We have to have a plan for whenever we get out of here. We continue on the path, presumably. So we might be able to see a lot more with these trees being downed.
Yeah, with Windwalk, you wouldn't need to be on the path necessarily.
We were told to
But
stick
yeah,
to
you were
that
told to stay on the path.
I don't. They didn't say whether or not the path,
Yeah,
up in the
what the
air.
height,
Does that?
right? The
Yeah.
height of the path is a little
You need to
unclear.
physically have at least 1 foot on the ground of
At
the
all
path.
times. Yeah. So running is
Speed walking
dangerous too.
rules.
Yeah. Yeah, but I go through the process and turn us all into air clouds, I should say.
So are you, how long does that spell take? 10 minutes? 1 minute? I don't remember.
I think it's just a minute. Find it. Yeah, casting time 1 minute.
Okay, and is Clave opening up a gap to get out of the tunnel?
Yeah, once everybody changes into mist, clay wood.
Okay, and immediately as you feel your body transform into mist, you notice that it is a very different feeling experience here. It is like pushing through molasses to move, at least relative to what you're used to. You're still moving at a pretty good clip, much faster than you would be by walking, but it's not nearly as fast as you would have been getting if you were back in your world again. That assumes your world's not also being crushed out of existence.
I just like
So
imagine
are
we're
you
we're like
hovering?
clouds. I
Right.
just imagine like the pressure like condenses us and we just start to rain.
Right. Well, that's you actually realize that that may be why you don't see any clouds, because there were always clouds every other
Right.
time you looked. And you didn't see any when you were looking up through the periscope. And you can definitely feel yourself, like getting altitude would be difficult, whereas it was effortless before. And you can feel the pressure all around you, pressing you down as hard as it can into the ground. You can imagine a natural cloud might just have broken up under this much stress.
Good thing we're magical.
So are you like, how are you following the path?
I'd
Are
imagine
you
we would,
like,
stay like low to the ground, like, 5-6 feet and just like
Well,
traveling along it.
yeah, I'd still, even if they're all crushed down, I mean, they should still have some sort of height, and I don't want to like be too high up above it to be
right,
visible.
right, flying out of the zone of the Mirage Arcane, you are back now in the sort of purely mountainous terrain that this path had wound through before. And you do see ahead of you, with especially without any trees, that the path itself is difficult to distinguish because there are numerous now rock slides, as even the mountains themselves appear to they're beginning to strain under whatever this force is. And rock slides and trees falling all over them just make it difficult to see the path. You do vaguely remember, I mean, actually, if you follow Clave exactly remembers where the path was. The rest of you vaguely remember where the path was. And it's not always easy for you to distinguish it.
That's right.
But which cloud is Clave? You people with keen mind don't know.
I mean, I imagine if we stopped, or Teal stopped, and then eventually you'd imagine like Clave would just be leading the way, because Clave would know where he was going. So he would presumably be the one who is more confident in the direction and therefore more likely to trot out ahead.
I'd also
Right.
telepathically harass anybody that went in a stray direction.
I just figured Clave went first. So we just follow the one that's in the front.
So as you snake your way forward, an hour passes and you probably make it another 100 miles, which is not impressive for this particular spell, but you are at least a good a good bit closer to the edge to where the tear was. But at this point, you can really feel it bearing down upon you. And you realize that you probably will be slowed to 0 speed before you make it back to the tear.
Well. No.
And that's when, looking up, you see there's a little bit of a flash in the sky as a star seems to shift. And then it begins to get larger and larger as it heads directly at you.
T-Hole will say run. Or I guess he can't really talk.
Fucking can't.
Oh. But that he's just gonna keep going down the path.
Right. So, I mean, even before you can fully comprehend that you're not screaming run, this star plummets from the sky.
No,
and you
Ricky
see-
Schroeder.
A shimmering field of force above you seems to intercept the star, and it shatters above you in a cataclysmic explosion that probably would have destroyed the side of this mountain. You are now realized hovering above a sort of remaining plug of rock as the mountain on all sides of you has been disintegrated by the force of this blast, with only this magical shield that's covering you, this dome hanging in the sky, having protected you from the impact of it. And at that point, Clave, you notice just in the back of your mind a feeling that you recognize immediately. It's just very faint. That is the presence of the Southern Sage. It appears to be sort of gaining in strength, almost like the sage is getting closer. But you're not exactly sure that it's a physical closeness, but you can feel the sage kind of slowly moving its mental impression into your head. And after a second, all of you begin to feel the presence of the sage. You don't see him, obviously. He doesn't seem to be physically here, but you get the impression that he is watching over you. You can sense there is a great strain upon the sage.
Are we able, does it, kind of extending his thoughts, T-Hole mutters to himself, I hold wisdom beyond knowledge, as he focuses on his wisdom and tries to reach out to the Southern Sage to see if he can communicate.
What are you saying to him? What are you trying to say to him?
I would ask, do you know what is happening to your realm?
So make me a wisdom check.
Wisdom beyond knowledge.
Is wisdom beyond knowledge a class feature?
No, that's a daily affirmation.
That's a T-hole feature.
But that really should be a class feature. It's excellent. That's an excellent monk move.
So as you reach out, you feel as the sage begins to respond. It's an almost, even though you're in cloud form, it's an almost physical pain as its mind begins to open up in order to talk to you. You begin to feel some of the pain that the sage is feeling as it communicates back.
I know exactly what is happening to my realm. This isn't an attack, or at least it's not an attack by me. You need not fear that, although I do need to get you out of here. Something terrible has occurred, and I reacted poorly to its revelation.
And all of you at that point, you all hear that as the sage responds to Teal's question. You didn't hear Teal's question necessarily, but Clave, you could have heard Teal's question, but the rest of you wouldn't have. And you all do feel the field of force, the shield of force is still above you. But you can feel whatever pressure you're feeling, the sage is under a lot more pressure than the rest of you. It is as if it is attempting to save its realm, or at least protect it from the effects. And so it's bearing the brunt of whatever is going on in order to keep the world in one piece for as long as possible.
I mean, I probably would instinctively just like ask what has happened.
There's a firestorm in your world moving east now. The northern desert of Onlaith and its vicinity have turned molten, and it's begun to expand. I know not the physical extent of the calamity, but tens of thousands have already died in small villages and many towns scattered around the Warmlands. What little I know comes from ascending from the imperial wizard Bucknerd to the Grand Legate, the one you call Turbo, who I believe you know.
And at that point, you hear the voice. Those of you who know Bucknerd, who encountered him before, you hear his voice as the sage communicates the sending to you. You hear just the 25 words of the sending, of course, but Bucknerd says, "Firestorm receding west, northern desert melting. Black lava burns all near Molten Edge. Dharma Shah's walls holding thanks to unidentified magic. Grids 1 to 10 safe. Research commencing."
Turbo responded that she would be sending auxiliary mages to his location to defend the walls and to defend Dharma Shah if possible, and to safeguard the legions in his vicinity. It doesn't seem as though their immediate priority is crossing the walls into the Warmlands, but that is probably for the best, as to the best of my knowledge. The molten sands have abutted the great walls of Dharma Shah itself. If they attempted to cross them, they would immediately die in fire, assuming they don't have some way to simply teleport their way across it.
Is there a way we can stop this storm?
The storm isn't what's driven the sands molten. The storm is moving, but the heat that is liquefying the sands is coming from deeper underground. Some sort of vast pool of magma, probably left there by Ifrix himself, that the Pasha has called upon in an effort to decimate the Warmlands. What his goal is, I cannot say. His palace is still in its alternate realm. I can't hear any of his direct communications. One thing I can say unusually is when the Black Sands overtook the walls of the village of Kunlat, I heard the lava laugh as it was killing your people. The lava seems to have some sort of intelligence to it. It's an effect I've not heard of, not even in prophecy. I'm not sure what's going on in your world. It seems to have happened coincidentally with the moving of the storm. I can't imagine they're unrelated.
At that point, there's another shudder rips through the air as another star falls from the sky, and you see a mountain across the valley below the path that you were flying over is just completely destroyed. The top of it is sheared off, and the whole mountain itself looks to be just a great mound of flame.
Well, we must. So then
I'll just wave my cloud arms. Come on, let's go.
we must leave. But if we leave when we exit when we exit through the gates of Sul, won't the sands be molten? How will we escape?
I don't believe, from what I know, that the molten sands have reached that far south. However, you don't have time to make it back to the portal to get to the gates of Sul. I must send you out of here now. My realm has not more than an hour before it is completely crushed. This is only the beginning. My strength wanes. I will not be able to protect this realm for much longer. If you have questions, I suppose you can ask them now. I will say that Thabos and Darhal are under threat. Darhal is probably a town you wouldn't know about since it has lay in ruins for more than 200 years. But despite what you have been told, Darhal is the location of the brood of the Warmlands. I imagine both Thabos and Darhal have maybe a day at most before the Molten Sands take them. I don't know if there's any way to save either of them, or if there's some other place in your realm that you would wish me to place you. I am sorry that this has happened. It is, I suppose, as the great sage Alondo foretold long ago, a prophecy which I ignored, and it seems now to everyone's peril. When I realized what was happening, I broke my oath, the oath I swore in the mandate of Celestia, and interfered. I interfered to slow the devastation that was to come. I strengthened the walls of Dharmer Shah, slowed the procession of the Molten Sands. But when I am gone, my protections will begin to fade. The sands will probably expand at an increasing rate, and eventually even the walls of Dharmer Shah may fall. And I can't tell you how to stop it.
Could you come with us?
I am the target of this attack on my realm. If I were to go to your realm, the attack would follow.
What about the others here? The Coursera and the Scorpion Queen?
Corsair and the Scorpion Queen are in different planes than this one. Their own separate demi-planes. They should be unaffected by this. If you want, I can send you to the Great Colony, or at least the outskirts of where it would be on your realm. I suspect that area, however, is probably overtaken by the Molten Sands. I don't know what it would look like there. Probably molten glass.
Maybe we should head back towards the Turbo and the Empire and the Dragonborn.
As I've already broken my oath, I have no problem answering further questions. There is not much time, but anything you wish to know, you may ask me now. I will say, going to, I know of the plan to try to lure the giants to the oasis. That plan was doomed to fail. The giants all have known for a while where the brood is. They have no interest in attacking the brood. They see the Dragonborn as a potential future source of wealth. They would rather have new Dragonborn to serve as slaves and serfs, as managers of slaves and serfs, than to simply wipe you out. Then they would just have unproductive desert.
How pragmatic.
But if Freaks does not ally itself with the giants or the demons,
I don't know what the Pasha of Frix's plans are. If Frix itself is an immensely evil and narcissistic entity, if it ever allies with anyone, it would be for a short time and solely for its own purposes. If Frix is next to kin of a demon, almost seeking destruction for its own sake, the way a fire spreads. The Pasha was, when I remember him, a little more rational than Ifrix, although not nearly as cunning. He could be reasoned with and does seek a measure of his own power, which makes him somewhat more predictable than his master. Now, Ifrix is probably seeking his own goals, Given the direction in which the firestorm is moving and assuming the Pasha is moving with it, I suspect, although this is a guess, the Pasha may be moving towards the domain of Molten Canaan, possibly to retrieve the Wand of Eternity's doorstep, which strangely would align with the goals of the changelings who live in the Great Colony, as they seek nothing more than the release of Thurisden.
What about the goals of this? What did you call her before? T-hole? Paradana?
Paradana.
Paradana, I know. She has spoken many times in the deserts. Her goals are that of her master, the one person I cannot see very clearly, Vecna. I gather she also wants the Wand of Eternity's doorstep more than anything. Vecna wishes to become a new god, the first in eons. And he believes he can take it by killing an old god, Thurisden. He may be right. He understands rituals far older than even I can remember.
He has been around a long time.
As I remember him from when he was immortal.
Yeah, so do I.
Is there anything, what will happen of your hoard of items and knowledge that you have acquired?
My cave is even now straining under the weight of this assault. My former kin will destroy everything in this plane. My hoard, as well as myself, will be gone.
Is there anything we could use?
There may be things you could use, but I am mentally projecting myself to you. I don't have the strength to simply move them across this space to where you are right now. It will take probably the last of my power to remove you from this realm and back into your world, which is why I need to know where in your world you want to go. If you wish to save the brood eggs before the sands can swallow them, I can send you there. If you wish to save the 50,000 residents of Thebos, I can send you to Thebos. I don't know how you would save them necessarily. There are many eggs, tens of thousands of eggs, and many people, and you are known to very few of the people who would be in charge there. Thebos is, of course, currently controlled by the giants as well. They probably would not be eager to move, and they don't know the threat is coming yet.
Zarius.
You may need to treat with the giants.
Or I could send you to the outskirts of Molten Canaan's ruins, from which Aurelia could send you into the spirit world, and you could deal with your own problems. Whichever you choose, I am not here to judge. I just know that the release of Thurisden would be a potentially catastrophic development for your world. And you seem to be at the center of potentially stopping it, as all of the events have whirled around you.
We have seen a future, a vision of the future in which this world is, which Thurisden is released, and Vecna has accomplished their goals. Yes.
Did Vecna accomplish? I thought Vecna got killed too. I don't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah. All you remember from the jaunt into the future is that Vecna tried to steal the power of Thurisden, seems to have won in that, or at least this is what Aurelia would remember, seems to have won in that he got the wand and released Thurisden and tried to absorb his power. Whether or not what resulted was Vecna with Thurisden's power or Thurisden after having absorbed Vecna, that was not clear.
That's fair.
I feel like, especially given my addled state with this migraine I'm fighting, Clave is much smarter than me and would ask maybe something that I'm not, as a player, able to conceptualize.
I'll have to think about that one. What that is essentially, my character is so smart that I should reveal DM secrets to you, which is, fair. That's
Well,
probably
maybe-
fair even without a migraine, probably. Is so smart that he would probably think of things.
I mean,
So the sage would chime in to say,
I think if you wish to save lives of the Dragonborn, you might be well served to play the card that you walk with the Sultan of Onlaith. As that might get the Dragonborn to listen to you. That would be more likely to work at the hatchery when moving the brood stock of the Dragonborn than in Thabos, where you would have to deal with the giants. At the hatchery, you would only have to deal with Sorteakon, who has recently returned there.
Been starting to move
Darts.
these. Can move the eggs.
For the moment, Mordenkainen's realm is safely outside the area of the Molten Sands. I couldn't even tell you that the sands will ever reach as far as the ruins in which the gateway to his realm exists.
And that is in the Sea of Glass, yes.
The great colony is in the Sea of Glass. The tomb of Amon-Ra is where the ruins that Mordenkainen inhabits are.
Well, Zarius, I understand that you have a duty to your people to safeguard your future. I think if you felt compelled to protect the young, then I think we should go. Though I'm not quite sure how we would transport 10,000 eggs.
Presumably they would have people and methods for moving the brood.
Yes, I'd hope so.
I was never involved in that step. I was only involved in the deaths.
so you get an image in your head of where the sage thinks this molten sands are currently.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. When you transport us, could you perhaps send one communication to the leader of the giants and warn him that his city is about to fall?
You mean send it, sorry.
You mean send it to the leader of Thabos?
Yeah, whoever is
Not-
currently ruling, yes, I should say.
I could attempt to do so.
And then perhaps we do what we can for the eggs, for the brood. And then once we have done whatever we can do there, we move on to either location.
I think it will be
Perhaps dealing with
difficult.
Mordenkainen might be a good choice.
I think seeing the vision of the waves of molten sand just kind of undulating across across the open plains. I think that if we were gonna go to the Great Colony, we would, our best shot would be to do so now. It may be difficult to reach without
Yes.
without the Southern Sage's help or something to transport us there directly. So I think if we use our chance to go to the eggs now, I think we lose the chance to go to the Great Colony. I'm just looking at the map and it looks like it's just surrounded by molten lava.
Yeah, that's the
But the-
impression you get.
So
Dar Hall is also not looking so
good as it's also
apparently close to surrounded. It probably has a northern route out across the Sea of Glass.
yeah. So I think if we're gonna go to the colony, like we have to go now. Or find somebody else that can like magic us there. Or figure out a way to do that.
Right. I mean, so you get the impression, so the sage agrees that this, unless you can find a safe way to fly above the sands, and the air is super hot too, and you're not invulnerable in windwalk form. So the heat could be potentially deadly if you were to just try to fly across the hottest parts of that molten rock beneath you. But he agrees that this is probably going to be your best chance to fly to the Great Colony. The Great Colony, though, is in a different dimension, so he can move you to the location, the sort of the corresponding location to where it is, but you would still have to find a way in.
Right.
And
Don't
it
have the
is
eye.
right. It is currently mostly surrounded, so you'd have to find a sort of stable platform, and then figure out a way in, which at the moment you don't have. Also, Darhal and Thabos are just going to be completely destroyed in 24 hours. Darhal probably in less than that. So, it is your last chance to go to any of these places.
Yeah. You know how to you really know how to what's it where we like take forever to make decisions, analysis paralysis. Yeah.
So here's a lot of
Well,
different possibilities.
do we have a method for reaching the Great Colony? Do we know how to get there? We know where they are, roughly in this corresponding plane, but we need to be able to traverse into theirs. Without that, it would be useless to go there.
Not without the key. And we would need to either go to Mordenkainen or find some of your countrymen, Clave.
I feel like I think we should go to the Great Colony. I can't explain it, but I'm positive that I can find a way there if we get there.
And then what was her name again? Shit. The brood lady.
Sortea Khan.
Yeah. If this is what is decided, then so be it. I will send a message to Sortea Khan, warning her of the impending destruction. And hopefully she will listen.
I hope so, for your brood's sake. Though she will not be deaf to the cries of the molten lava or the molten sands that have taken up and taken their voices to the desert air. So I pray she does not fight you too much.
We shall see.
Yeah, just to remind you, you did not get along with her last time.
I know.
Yeah, I remember.
I do
we
recall.
definitely did not.
I very much recall.
But you know, presumably, if Zarya is gives this warning, but she also hears that like towns are on the verge of just being destroyed. It's not some idle threat or
I don't know where the fuck she'll take it. Like it's north, flowing south, which would just push them towards the goddamn demons. My my instincts tell me that this is a perhaps demon enforced, whatever this roiling sand is. A way to drive people down to them.
Is Ifrix a demon?
No, Ifrix is
The
so
king of the
Ifrix
fire
is
elementals.
right. Ifrix is sort of the greatest of the fire elementals, probably like just some primordial being that existed from the beginning of time. The prince of elemental fire. Ifrix's status as a god or something else is a little hard to suss out. I mean, you know, what's the line between god and demon, really? But, you know, probably on the same power level as a demon lord.
So one thing Clave would ask the Southern Sage is if he can tell me and explain Corsair's trick.
I do know the
By
secret.
inspiration.
I do know the secret. There is, however, no way for me to simply explain it to you. It requires much more practice and time than I have.
Fair enough. Had to try.
So tell me, do you wish to go to the vicinity of the Great Colony?
That's Clave's vote.
As long as you won't regret that decision, Zarius, I am okay with it.
Only time will tell.
I wish I will go where the greatest need lay.
Let us go to the great host. The great colony, sorry.
What about you, Aurelia?
Yeah, I'm wherever the group wants to go, I'm fine.
It's all
I'm
pointless
surprised
anyways.
Actually, I am slightly surprised, and maybe it just means Aurelia has changed her goals, that Aurelia hasn't chimed in saying, let's go kill Morton Kanan. But okay. So the Southern Sage would say,
I'm going to be transporting you there now. I don't believe this will trigger any adverse effect from your afflictions, as I believe that truly divine magic shouldn't affect you as negatively as arcane magic would. If you run into trouble, if it seems as if the molten sands are going to overtake you, I would remind Aurelia that you can transport people into the spirit realm, which would be utterly unaffected by this problem. This is limited to the mundane world only, so it may be that you can find a refuge there, unpleasant as the spirit realm can be.
and you all feel another sort of jolt of pain shoot through you, greater than the first time. That's just being transmitted from the southern sage to you. But you also begin to see little orbs of white light begin to appear around you and are circling below the dome of the magical shield he created above you. Eventually, so many little globes are flying around you that all you see is a brilliant white light. And suddenly you feel a wave of heat wash over you. And you find yourselves standing on a vast rock, probably about maybe a mile across in one direction and about, you would guess, half a mile in another, roughly oval shaped, in a sea of fire.
Probably should have asked him what the hell the prophecy was that he ignored.
I mean, if you wanted to ask him that, that's fine.
I feel like Zarius would be wise enough to at least ask that much.
I think that might be fair.
If he ignored it, they're like, why did he ignore it? And why did he react so aversely when he realized, oh, that was actually going to happen?
I mean, when you ask him that, okay, so I'll say you would have thought about that. So, I mean, Celestia is kind of the chief of the Outer Planes, and he mentioned the mandate of Celestia. So make me a religion check.
I'm not good at these.
There are levels of success on this particular check.
All right, well, all right.
Well, that's pretty good.
Hey, all right.
so yeah, so Celestio is kind of the, one of the highest of the Outer Planes. All of the myths of the gods of good would have placed them in or adjacent to Celestia.
Sure.
The mandate of Celestia, you would know, is from really back in the time when the gods first began to order the world. They came up with a set of rules, and this includes rules that kind of limit just how much damage evil can do to the world. And they called it the mandate of Celestia. This is the same pact. It's supposed to be like insanely detailed, like no mortal mind can grasp the whole thing. It includes things like devils, for example, can't themselves initiate planar travel to the mundane world. And that is because they agreed not to in this thing, and they will be utterly destroyed if they try. Mortals can summon them, and that can be their way into this world, but they can't just, cast plane shift and get here on their own. Or they can find, various tricks have been found by different devils over the years. Demons are similarly bound by the same rules, more willing to break them, but usually they have a limited time here before they get found out and destroyed. So any demon that has a sense of self-preservation, which is not all of them, won't do that. There are various other rules about the sort of the structuring of the world, and some religions will, claim that any particular rule they think is important is actually mandated there in order to make it compulsory, because that's what religions often do with these things. But like I said, it covers essentially the whole ordering of the cosmos in theory. And the sage would explain,
in the beginning of time, I served a being who no longer exists in your world. I served him as one of his principal angels. When he disappeared from the world, I should have disappeared from the world as well, but I wish to stay to help mortals. Eventually, when the mandate of Celestia was completed, it was decided that 4 sages, 4 servants of this ancient being would be permitted to remain. But we had to agree to many rules, one of which was that we not interfere with the mortal world, except within very circumscribed grounds. One of those was that I am permitted to answer 1 question every year from a mortal who seeks me out. Otherwise, I was limited to living in my domain, within the cave, under pain of destruction should I ever break my oath under the mandate. By saving lives in Dharma Shah and elsewhere, I have broken my oath. And so my world is now over. I don't expect to survive, but as the great sage Alondo once said, this was always intended to be my end. You would come, Thurisdan would be at least potentially released, and a sage, I now know myself, would violate his oath in order to try to stem the cataclysm that's coming. I think, for all the people I've saved, probably the greatest good I do for your people is to send you from my realm before you can be destroyed. Because as I said, if anyone is going to prevent the return of Thurisdan, I suspect it is you, or that you will have a great hand in it, even if you yourself need aid to do so.
So there's others like you say.
There are 3 other sages. I will leave it to you to suss out their names. I am the Southern Sage.
Right. Understood. It's the location of the others that are more real useful.
Right. The east northeast sage.
Right. The super south sage, like it was even further.
The even further south sage.
Central stage.
Yeah. That's what you mean, right?
Right.
All right.
And so if you have a follow-up to that, that's fine. You could ask that too.
I don't think so. I don't, yeah. Unless he's willing to impart any quick details as to where to find these other sages, just in case. Just in case. Are they similarly limited in their scope?
Oh, he would say they all have their own limitations. He is the only one who has this answers one question a year thing. All of them agree to help in their own way, and it's very circumscribed. But to get help from any of them, it's a similar process of needing to figure out how to get to the realms that they've been confined in.
Right.
And explaining that is just not something he has time to do.
Sure. All right. I don't actually need to know anything more than that. We have more pressing matters. And that will just be a wondering for whenever we have a moment. I'm good.
So yeah, so you are on this mostly flat slab of rock. It was probably like a mesa rising out of the sea of glass, you would gather, as particularly at the edges of the sea of glass, you often got what were sort of considered to be islands. This one, if there was anything else on it besides rock, it's not here anymore. It is nothing but gray and black rock, depending on where you look at it. But you don't see anything else. I mean, over top of you, you see nothing but clouds. Smoke is rising from the sands around it, which makes it somewhat difficult to breathe. It's not to the point where you have to make any checks or anything, but who knows, maybe it gets worse.
Well, he starts like looking, like he starts like walking around the mesa, trying to see if he can find any sort of to see if he can find any sort of sign of life or people here, like changelings, or sign that someone's been here.
So he's teleported us, right?
Yeah, you're back in your world again.
I will be casting sending.
I mean, I would say, so you making your way to sort of near the closest edge of the mesa, you can see the remains of what was probably some sort of town. You can also see there's like a group of people that are much lower down than you, kind of on ledges clinging to the rock. Clinging is the wrong word. Like they're not exactly in great threat of falling into the molten glass below them. But there's not a lot of room where they're standing. It does seem as though there's no more than like a dozen people there. All of them look sort of burned and dirty and in various states of distress.
Do they look like, so when you say they're like,
Actually, I was gonna send a whisper, but I don't know that I don't know that Mike is staring at his computer screen given the migraine. So I'll just say Clave would immediately, almost as soon as you reach near the edge, like when you're within 100 feet of these people, realize that probably most, if not all of them, are changelings.
I don't know if it's prepared, but I think that it is. Clave would cast Fly and immediately begin going to bring those survivors up to the top of the mesa.
Yes, you have that prepared. So are you explaining this to people or just doing it?
No, I would just do it.
So Clave begins to cast a spell and then flies off down towards them. So we'll role play that a little bit just so they know where they're being whisked off to. But Zarius, do you know what you're sending?
Yeah, I was writing it up here.
Okay. You can let me know when you're
There.
because you already. Yeah, so I mean, you would know, and I'll just say you send it differently. North is really the only way they have to get out at this point of Darhal. So it's really the Molten Sands are more or less in an arc around Darhal and are pressing in
Oh, okay.
because
Okay.
Darhal is like here-ish.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was imagining it differently for some reason. So the hatchery is somewhere around here then, basically.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that's fine.
So it's arriving from the south.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, they're almost surrounded, so it's hard to
Sure.
say. But
All right. An immense
general,
danger
the
is
south.
surrounding the place.
Yeah, I don't necessarily hold you to exactly 25
Yeah.
words, so that's
Close.
fine.
And we'll close in within 24 hours. Move the brood, as much of it as possible. Yeah. It still roughly works out, I think.
Right. So you hear back shortly after that. We will not move the brood on your word alone. We are aware of fires around us. Fire giants may be closing in, but they have never found us before. We'll be fine.
I'm gonna send another one. Just so she fucking understands the urgency here. She should know these spell slots herself. She's old enough, she should have some idea. God damn it. You goddamn bitch.
That's your sending.
No.
You goddamn bitch.
oh, did I leave this on?
I forgot to hang up. Fuck.
Right. You goddamn bitch, and I'll just round out my sending with exclamation points.
Yeah, as many exclamation points as I can fit in this text message.
So you could work on your second message. Clave, you fly down, and the people are initially startled to see you sort of fly down from the sky. But they can recognize that you too are a changeling. What do you say to them?
Well, they wouldn't
Oh, right. Never mind.
sense it,
You're right.
but I would make sure that I shifted my form to be in my natural form. So that they could tell. And then I would also speak into their minds and say, I'm here to help. I'll take you to the top.
One of them steps forward to say, in your mind as well, thank you. We imagined we were going to die here. We can't imagine any of the glass skiffs could continue to sail across this now that the whole sea has turned liquid. The flames themselves would probably destroy all but the metal ships. Do you begin to ferry them up? You don't see any, there's no children in the group. These are all, some of them are you gather older, is the impression you get from them, but you don't sense that any of them are incredibly young. They seem to mostly be adults.
So once I got them all up, Clave would introduce himself mentally and let them know that the other members of my party are friends, and would ask them to describe what it is that happened that they saw.
So, as you do that, the one you were speaking to asks, why can't I sense you? It's almost as if you are invisible. It's weird. It's as if you're not there.
I have a special trinket that masks my presence from all kinds of things.
Hmm.
It's
We are
a
people who
useful
are,
tool. It's a useful tool given, you know, the prejudices that exist for our people.
I can accept that. We are people who are accustomed to the unusual, but it is somewhat unsettling. So what was it that you wanted to know?
What they saw, what it was that
Yeah,
happened from their perspective.
this was just him asking.
Oh,
We were going about our business. Most of us, at least the ones here, were awake when suddenly we noticed the sands themselves began to shift. The glass turned liquid, and we didn't understand why at first. There was a glow on the horizon, and before we knew what was going on, fire swept across the glass. Rolling molten rock seemed to move like waves across it until eventually our town was mostly submerged in the sludge, the burning sludge. And we could feel the malevolence rolling off of it. That weird molten rock, I think it may be alive in some way, in some primitive form. I think it may be intelligent. We tried to save as many people as we could, but it swept through the town so fast and we were so unprepared for it that this is it. This is all that remains of the town. About 400 other souls are currently swallowed and burned. We need to find a way across this lava to get back to the great colony. But we'll need to find a key to get there. Do you have a key?
I don't.
Are you one of the kindred?
If by kindred you mean one from the Great Colony, no. But we're actually seeking the Great Colony ourselves. you're hoping you might have a key.
So I'm gonna make a persuasion check for you just to see how he reacts.
Okay.
That's pretty good. If you're not one of the kindred, then it would be unusual for you to go to the colony. You know that, right?
I understand, but circumstances are not really typical at this moment.
I'm
The
also
Great
gonna make
Colony is in
an ins-
danger.
I'm also gonna make
and-
an insight check for you.
Okay.
I'm not, while I don't understand this molten rock, the great colony is in the middle of a transformation. You're not kindred, so I get that you would not understand our ways. But the great colony is well protected from catastrophes like this, although I must admit this catastrophe is baffling to me.
Are you familiar with Efrix?
Yes, I'm familiar with Ifrix. We don't truck with his sort. He says you immediately realize he's lying. He's a little bit surprised that you know the name Ifrix, that you've raised it. And essentially he is afraid you're going to react negatively to anything truthful he has to say about this.
So I would say the Great Colony is in danger because Frix has been freed. And I imagine as those from the Great Colony shared in the responsibility of his imprisonment, he will seek some sort of vengeance.
So I'm going to make another persuasion check. I appreciate that you are concerned for the well-being of the colony. However, Nihil's children, the kindred, we released the Pasha on purpose. Ifrix is misunderstood. You simply don't understand the shape of the future to come. If you would allow me to teach you more about the kindred, if you would join our ranks, you would understand the glorious future that awaits us now that the Pasha is free. The freeing of the Pasha is the first step in a great prophecy that will lead to the return of the great Lord of this world. It will be a time of plenty for the kindred. All others, admittedly, will have to pass away into oblivion, but the kindred will rise. You could be part of that.
Clave would definitely show some bit of disgust, although he would try to hold it back. Which for a non-changeling would be nearly imperceptible, but for a changeling, I imagine it's more clear. And Clave would say so are people freed the Efrix?
We freed his Pasha, his representative in the mundane world, who once fought the war of flame and sorrow, a war in which our side, unfortunately, backed Morden Canaan and his lies. We helped save this world from Ifrix before, unaware that we were thwarting fate itself. We're going to set that right, though. We are going to become the rulers of this adopted world. Possibly the last beings in existence.
So these people are all significantly injured. And
Yep.
yeah. So Clave would just internally become very sad at hearing this. And feeling like his people must have been led so far astray, and hoping that perhaps in the aftermath of all of this, Clave might help shepherd them to a better way. But he's not gonna reveal any of that. He's just gonna say, well, I hope that you guys are able to rest and find some safety in what is to come.
I'm sorry that you don't wish to join us. We will wait here, I'm sure. Eventually, our people will come to see what's happened to the town, and they will lead us back into the great colony. I wish you luck. I hope you eventually see the light and realize that you should embrace the kindred. And Clave, I don't know if you remember, Mike, but Clave would remember that there were all sorts of tribes among your people. And when this was being explained, the Nihil's kindred were sort of described as like the Thurisdan worshippers of the group. And at
right.
some point, they took control of the great colony and began excluding everybody else.
That's right. I'm recalling that now. Um,
So this is essentially the cultists of your people.
yeah.
So they seem to be I mean, none of them are terribly bothered. They're mostly going about their own business, tending to their own wounds, as they are, lucky to be alive, basically. And certainly, even if they were hostile, in no real position to put up a fight against anybody who's at this point. That they didn't flee like with a great number of possessions. Not even clear that any of them have weapons on them.
So I would turn to Zarius, Aurelia, and T-Hole and say, these people, they're destitute, and seem to be misguided. I recall that there was a faction of my people that actually supported the Risden and the Freaks. So these,
I mean, it might occur to you to ask other questions just because you've already learned that if Freaks is not necessarily himself tied to Thurisdan, and the War of Flame and Sorrow, so far as you know, had nothing to do with Thurisdan.
oh yeah,
So,
that's a good point. So I think Clave would probably ask about that for clarification.
and so basically the way he explains it, and you believe he's telling the truth, is apparently there is a prophecy that says that Thurisdan will be released by someone who commands flames or in the midst of the great flames, depending on how it's all translated. And these people have come to think, once they realized that the Pasha of Ifriks was essentially jailed in the great colony, that it was their great mission to release the Pasha so that Ifriks could get the Wand of Eternity's doorstep and free Thurisdan, which is the god that they worship. So he completely understands that Ifriks ultimately is not allied with Thurisdan, but he believes that Thurisdan will sweep Ifriks aside at the end, and that Ifriks will essentially just be a mechanism to open the prison that will free Thurisdan.
So I would pass that information along to the others on.
And Zarius, you can choose either a persuasion check or an intimidation check.
Well, let's see here. Which one is better? I get a +7 on intimidation. Innately proficient in that, I think, as a dragonborn. So
I'll just roll in the open. And you hear back in your head, very well, if you're embracing your title, I will begin the process of moving the brood. There are 22,000 eggs, however. They will not be moved quickly or easily. And you would know, like each egg basically weighs like 5 pounds and is like yay big. 22,000 eggs, moving them is probably a production.
that's why I said move as many of them as you can.
Right.
All the people. That's like that. That should be understood. Just fucking kill everybody as you can. Move the goddamn eggs.
Yeah. So she's gonna move as many of like the 11,000 pounds of eggs as she can. Since you're invoking your right to rule.
Yeah, you know what they say, you can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs, so.
Right. And since it's burning sand, there'll be plenty of omelets.
Too soon.
I'll have to work out, like I haven't done it just yet, but I'm wondering how many portable holes do you need to move that many eggs? So you've I assume you've moved off. You can see in the distance across the sort of now flaming sea of glass, there are other islands dotted here and there. It's not clear from where you are what's on them, but you can feel there is a blasting heat coming off of the molten glass and rock beneath you. Even flying over it could be dangerous. And while you think of what to do, let's take a 5-minute break.
Did you manage to get somewhat caught up on work?
Yes, I definitely am sort of caught up on it. I'm not quite all the way there yet because a bunch of new stuff came in while I was out. But all of the stuff that I basically had to drop when my mom passed, I'm mostly through that. I was actually hoping the company wants to do the securities offering, so we have to do a filing with the SEC. I was hoping to have that done today. And everybody was like super eager for me to get it done when it was me having to do the work. But I got to the point where I was like, okay, here's like the 10,000 things I have to do. And I need this information from all of these different people. So I sent out all these messages saying what I needed from people. And it turns out that the sense of urgency really fell off once the ball was in their court. when it was on me, super urgent. Suddenly it's like, yeah, I'll get you that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's like, I need a copy of your driver's license. Like, it's not like earth-shatteringly complicated things I need from them. There are a few things at this point, though. Even that is sort of down to, there's a couple outside contractors that I need some sign off from before we can file this thing. And there's this financial printer. For technical reasons, everything the SEC takes in has to go through this complicated process of converting it to the SEC's own special format. Why they don't use something that's a little more commercially reasonable, I couldn't tell you. But so for at least for large filings, you've basically got to send them to these professional financial printers. And unfortunately, Adobe PDF works really well for what I need it for, but for them to convert it to this SEC format, PDFs are hard to work with, and you've got to attach like a bunch of like contracts, and especially like old photocopy scans that have been changed into PDFs over time don't really convert super easily because you can't send the SEC just like a picture. They've got to be able to, it's got to be OCR'd and it's got to be 100% correct to the original. So it's just a hassle. It's definitely something that, a monkey could do it. It just takes time and attention to get everything done. So I was hoping to get that done today, but not everybody got me everything they need. And so it's going to fall now into next week. And I'm sure once I have everything back and I have to, start working on it again, it will become urgent.
Yeah. Of course.
So, but this is, for some reason, 2023 is just kicking my butt. Like not only did my mom pass, but like one of my dogs has cancer, I found out. So he's going through chemo every 2 weeks. And he has like this, so when you get chemo, you get like a port, just so they could do the injections easier. And the other dog, my other healthy dog, won't leave that port alone. He knows there's something good in there. He's gonna keep trying until he finds it. So that means I have to separate the dogs. So these dogs have basically lived their whole lives together, and now they clearly both feel like they're being punished.
Yeah. Is the dog that has cancer, is that the one that had surgery?
Yes, same one.
Man, a double.
Yeah. Yep. So first he eats a paintbrush. And it turns out it's not even his odds of surviving the cancer are super good. But he did have like a tumor that was affecting the way he walked. So they removed this tumor, and so then he could walk well, but then they found out it was cancerous. So apparently it's, his odds of getting through this are like 95%. So that's
Okay.
good.
So it's not like yeah,
I mean, it's still cancer, I guess. And chemo is not easy on him. Like he is a happy dog for the most part, but after the chemo treatment, like in the first few days after the chemo treatment, He doesn't want to do anything. He'll just lay there. I have to take food to him and like hand feed him because he just doesn't want to eat. And that's all. That was his favorite thing. That's all dog's favorite thing.
Man,
But he'll be fine. I am, however, I feel like I should be writing a country song just because of how bad the year's been.
you know, I've known of there's a couple people I know that this year has just been a real kick in the balls. Just like one bad thing after another. And
Yeah, I gotta say,
I thought we
I have to
left
say,
that.
I realized actually a couple years ago, and the trend is sort of continuing. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or what, but it has been feeling like for the past 5 years, like every year is a little bit worse than the last one. I didn't realize I was like really super optimistic before about like 2018.
Yeah.
Beginning of every year, I always feel so hopeful.
I think some people would probably say it started declining in 2016.
I'd be one of those people.
Okay, so it seems like we're all back. So you are on the top of this mesa. The molten rock, by the way, is probably about 100 feet below you, roughly, depending on where you're standing. You can see these other islands in the distance, but you are here with changelings who do expect eventual rescue, although they were a little vague on the timeline on when that would be. And when someone comes to rescue them, it's probably going to be their fellow Thurisdan cultists. But you could easily surmise that whoever comes to rescue them is probably going to come with a key.
I was actually just thinking that because they mentioned that they're going to take them back to the colony, so maybe it's worth just kind of sidling up and going over to the guy and say, you know what? I want to be an have an open mind. I did not grow up around my kin. I did not have the opportunities to understand the ways of our people. So maybe I'm being too quick to judge something that's just unfamiliar. Maybe you can tell me a bit of the ways of the kindred.
So I assume this is more a deception check. But
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you
I'd
expect the
agree
rest
with
of us to
that.
do?
I mean, what do you want to do?
I mean, we followed you here. How are we supposed to get into?
Well, I mean, if we, well, all we have to do is make these, and I would say this telepathically, so it's just, you hearing it. But if we just mollify these people so that they're not freaked out about us being here, and we are present when the rescuers come, and the rescuers happen to have a key, and then we forcefully take it from them, then we have a key.
Uh, so long as you do not take issue with us having to possibly kill these people.
I would prefer not to shed my kin's blood, but
It seems all they
these
wish
people,
to do is spill ours.
well, I'm sure that you can understand that these are still my people. I would like to keep them from harm as much as possible, but they're also cultists, and if they fight, then we have to do what we have to do.
And remind me, because I can't remember why we needed to get in here.
This,
What do you mean
this
here?
this is where we could find,
We need to get something from here, right?
yeah,
So
We-
yeah, all you really had to get from here is the key. I'll just run through it again because I know it's been a lot of lore.
And it's been a
So-
while since we learned that part of it.
Right. So the city of Dohat Pajar is in the same dimension as the Great Colony is. But it's a different plane, an adjacent plane to the mundane world. The
Hmm.
key would let you get into the Great Colony, but there are various points in this plane that have sort of weak barriers between this dimension and the dimension you need to get to. The key would let you pass through any of them if you had the key and were using it. You know there is such a path that leads directly into the Great Colony. So having a key would let you get there. If you had the key in hand, you could leave here, presumably, and find some other place where you could cross over to. So it's not necessarily what Clave's intentions are in getting to the Great Colony may be different. But
Right.
you know, you really needed the key, and this was just one place where you know there would be people who had them.
Understood.
Plus, I mean, if these kindred released the Pasha of Ifriks or Ifriks, what I don't know how it's said.
It's as close as our
Then-
mortal tongue can manage.
Uh,
We don't speak Ignan.
I think it would be hilarious if Rix is constantly correcting people.
No, you there's not enough fire in your voice.
Yeah.
Here, let me light it up. That's much better.
but you know, if these kindred released the Pasha, and if there is a prophecy that the Pasha will lead to the release of Thuristan, then by going to the Great Colony on our way to Dohat Pajar, we can possibly stop the Pasha if he's still in the area, thus preventing further catastrophe.
We just have
as-
to contend with a great inferno, yes?
Yeah.
So be it.
Right? Like so far as you know, actually, one way to get to Doat Pajar would be to cross from here into the Great Colony and then just freely walk from the Great Colony to Doat Pajar, as there shouldn't be any firestorm in the Great Colony's dimension. And otherwise, the landscape is, you know, more or less coincides with the landscape in your world. So travel might be easier in that dimension than it is in this one at the moment. So is the plan to sort of wait as meanwhile Clave is sidling up to these cultists?
I suppose so. 5th edition no longer has the endure elements spell, so I can't really protect us from this heat very well.
Protection from energy.
Yeah.
Doesn't last very long. With an
Oh.
action point.
Yeah. All endure elements was like it didn't protect you from the actual element, like
Right, it just
from an
protected you
attack.
from
It
the
just
environmental condition.
yeah, and it lasted a lot longer. Honestly,
Uh,
I may re-implement that spell. But
So
anyway,
Clave, yeah,
Yeah.
you go and I assume telepathically. I mean, you would all notice none of these people, and they don't look like changelings to you. They look like normal humanoids. None of them are speaking. You might take it, if you didn't realize they were changelings because you have Clave here, you might take it as though they're all in shock. But Clave, you sense that they're actually talking to each other quite frequently. They are to some degree in shock, and most of their conversations about like how much longer are they going to be able to endure this, and the fact that they have no water or provisions on them. But they're more active than these normies might think that they are.
Yeah.
So as you explain to the changeling that you are interested in learning more, you could sense that he is genuinely delighted to hear that maybe you'd be interested in converting. And so, he does proceed to sort of tell you a little bit more about their religion, trying to sort of convince you that there is a certain beauty in Thurisdan's plan, which is essentially to convert, and you could decide whether or not to tell everybody this because Aurelia may be into it. The plan is to convert the entire world into just pure chaos. And in pure chaos, living things just aren't going to continue the way they did before. They think they will be permitted, as the chosen of Thurisdan, to be able to continue on. But ultimately, there will be a sort of perfect peace because everyone will be subsumed into the chaos, which isn't exactly the same thing as destruction, because to some extent, the chaos can produce these people again and again forever, just intermittently. And most of the time, the people who are destroyed will not exist anymore. So I have this weird sense, this weird aesthetic sense of destruction as beauty, of chaos as a beautiful and creative force that seems to be the basis of their religion. But eventually he gets around to, are your friends going to be sacrificed? Like, we can't allow them into the colony.
Oh, I must not have let you know. They're also changelings. They have the same trinket as I do, so you wouldn't be able to sense them. Also, they aren't able to speak telepathically. I actually didn't have that ability until very recently.
I see. How did you come across the ability then? It's rare for a changeling to develop the ability later in life, unless you're much younger than I imagine you to be.
Uh, well, I'm only in my mid-20s. I don't know how old that is among our people, but I actually met a changeling that helped me through a process that unlocked this gift for me.
Sounds unusual to me, but I suppose it's a wide world. A process. I've never heard of someone being led to telepathy. Normally, it's a great gift from the gods.
It
Where
it
did you meet this
was
person?
um I don't remember the name of the place.
It was
Was that
Ilkja, is where you met her.
yeah. So I would say I think it was in the area around Ilkaja. Um and it was quite painful, the process. It probably the most painful thing I've ever endured in my life. Um Even more so than nearly dying multiple times. But afterwards, I felt more complete, more whole, and I had this ability. So something had awakened within me that was dormant.
And are your friends also interested in joining the kindred?
Yeah. Uh, they definitely are interested. They would like to know more as well. They may be a little bit more shy about it. See, much like myself, not having grown up around our kind, I just ran into these fellow changelings as well, and they shared a similar history. That's how we kind of came together to form this group that we have now. We would look out for each other, protect each other, since you know how dangerous this world can be for our kind.
I certainly do. I think all changelings know. Rolling an insight check for you. Yeah, you get the sense. So when you mention that they don't have telepathy, this guy does kind of have a problem with that. He hasn't said it, but kind of mentally turned his nose up at them.
Mhm.
Well, I suppose we could he switches over to spoken speech. I suppose we could simply talk about the tenets of the kindred. That way your friends could also learn more.
Well,
I
that would
will
be
need
wonderful.
I will need to understand all of you a little bit better before any of you could be allowed into the great colony. So tell me, since I gather none of you are kindred, which of the dancer are you with?
So I would quickly telepathically inform the group. But hey, by the way, guys, you're changelings. Just go along with it.
No, would he recognize that you're using telepathy? If it's like,
No,
It's
his telepathy is one mind to one mind.
gotcha.
um, and then I'd also explain to everybody the reason, and you all have a trinket that blocks people from being able to tell you're changelings. So, um, now Kurt, remind me,
Actually,
was
I would also say he might actually be able. Ordinarily he might be able to kind of get subtle signs that you are using telepathy. But I just assume since your stealth check is +8, that you're basically disabled to hide that from him. Your stealth and deception check are both +8, so either way, you can. He is not in any way exceptional, so I don't think he's going to be able to see through any sort of elaborate ruse.
all right. Now the remind me, is Dan Sarar, was that a faction, or was that the just the name of changelings?
So the dancer are there. You learn basically that there are kind of two great groups of changelings. There's the dancer are who migrated to this world centuries ago, and then there's your group, which are Thralar, which are all further north. Your group basically migrated here a couple of 100 years ago
Uh-huh.
when the mind flayers began to infiltrate the empire. So they do kind of, at least the changeling you met kind of thought of you as a different offshoot of the changeling race. You're not sure, like, other than the fact that they've been here longer, you're not sure that there's any other real difference between the two groups. He was basically able to tell you were Thralar because you just didn't know as much as the normal changeling would about the dancer are. But
Okay.
so you would also remember that he claimed to be from a group called the Light Invisible. That was the name of his tribe, so to speak, within. He also mentioned a bunch of others. You would probably remember some of them.
Um, well, I would explain, you know, we don't really know when you say what what tribe we belong to. We don't know because none of us grew up around changelings.
What do you mean? He looks genuinely puzzled by that.
Well, from what I learned, as um, for me personally, I was raised by human parents. I didn't
You
know that I was different until I was well into my teenage years. Um, and I only really set out on the world after a tragedy that I would prefer not to talk about. But um, so I had never known others like myself until I had met my companions and others along the way, like uh like the one that I had mentioned who helped unlock my dormant gifts.
and the same is true for all of you?
T-hole nods. It is difficult to have been separated from your kin, not knowing your heritage, not knowing where others are your entire life. It is somewhat of a relief to finally meet others.
And he still looks sort of astonished and taken aback by this and says, I can't imagine which of the clades would have fallen so far as to let so many children be raised by the people of this world. Monoforms. I'm surprised they didn't massacre you as soon as they found out you were a changeling. How
I
did you?
hid it.
I'm not even sure how you got into such a family.
It
Truly
was the only
bizarre.
family I ever knew.
Well, no wonder you don't understand the true love of the chaos, of Thurisdan's embrace. You were raised by savages.
Uh, I understand that these people are different from ours, but they did raise me. They cared for me. They loved me as their own. Not, they didn't know what I was, but still, I still hold great affection for my my adoptive parents.
Well, you would do well to perhaps not voice such unconventional opinions in the colony if you should find yourself there. You'll find no love for the monoforms there.
Okay, I'll try to keep that in mind. You have to remember, I'm not familiar with the ways of our people. None of us are familiar with the ways of our people.
So where then were you raised? Where were your families located? I mean, you said humans. I see one of you is taking the form of a dragonborn. I assume that's more of a local matter. In Ilkaja or further north?
I was raised up north. Um, I know I've written it down where my character was raised, but I don't recall off the top of my head and I can't look it up, so.
Right. He wouldn't recognize the name anyway if it's not somewhere relatively nearby. Like Ilhashat as far away as he really would be aware of. I had no idea our people ever made it out of the deserts. I had no idea our people would have any interest in making it out of the deserts. We've been here so long. Well, there is clearly much to teach you. And he proceeds to sort of, again, lay down the tenets of this adoration and worship of an ever-changing chaos that borders on nothingness, but that always contains within it the seed of possibility. A world in which the chosen of Thurisdan would be allowed to maintain their physical forms and to some extent not only experience all of the ever-changing wonders of the chaos, but possibly, if they're mentally strong enough, learn to control it, to create that which they need or want from the chaos itself. And this is the future he tells you he envisions once they can release Thurisdan and once Thurisdan has reclaimed this world.
So you are saying that from chaos you can use chaos as a force of creation.
All creation ultimately comes from chaos. The perfect order that the beings who worship order would have you go to is nothingness. An ever-changing nothingness is a perfect order. Any shape is an irregularity in the perfection of order because it is different from the thing that is next to it. Only nothingness is perfection itself if you happen to believe obsessively in order. But chaos can create anything at any moment. It will eventually in time take it back, recreating something new in its wake. But everything will exist at some point in the chaos.
Then why would you wish to maintain your form?
Oh, you mean this physical body?
Yes.
It is true that we enjoy changing our form quite a bit. We maintain these forms mostly as a disguise because you never know when the people of this world will find you.
But you said that the chosen few would be able to maintain their physical form. Why would you even wish this if you wish to be part of the chaos?
Ah, I see what you're saying. We would, when I say maintain our physical form, I mean that we would be able to continue to experience existence, whatever that might mean. It is certainly true that I don't expect our bodies will be bags of water that our minds continue to exist in. We will exist in many forms. Some of them might not be physical as we know them today. They could be forms of energy. They could be something else entirely. But when I say maintain our physical forms, I mean continue to exist. Whereas the people who do not follow Thurisdan, they will simply be dissolved back into the chaos. Their consciousness, their souls is the wrong word. It's a very monoformed concept. But given that you've not been raised by our kind, maybe it's the closest thing you would understand. Our souls, in that sense, would continue on eternally, unchanging, except to the extent we desire to see them change. And we would be in that guided by Thurisdan himself, who may well convince us that we would be better off changing what we are for something new, especially as time moves forward, as we will have eternity to explore every possibility, mind you, not just the 100,000 you and I could think of in the remainder of our mortal lives, but an eternity of every possibility, whether we can think of them now or not.
And what is to say that this Thurisdan even wishes to let anyone continue?
Thurisdan is the god of change. That was his original role, was bringing life to this world, the original spark that created change, that took the ordered forms of chaos and molded them into something. But being a god, he needs others around him, something to believe in him, to continue his own spark, so that together we grow with each other. We reinforce the existence of one another. No one wants to be alone forever, not even a god. He will want others with which to enjoy endless creation.
This feels like an assumption.
I understand you haven't read the sacred text. You probably don't even know the truth of the God's War. But I assure you, in time, you will learn all of the sacred scriptures, and you will see the beauty that lays ahead for all of us who embrace Thorisden, and who ultimately are ready to sacrifice the physical form of this world and the foolish creatures in it who will not embrace the change. I mean, you should count yourself lucky. You're not even psychic. I'm honestly not sure that Thorisden will want someone of your level. But I don't speak for the god. He might find some use for you. I can say, if he does not choose you, anyone who is among the unchosen will simply disappear. Whatever energy makes up those who are not selected will dissolve into the background to be used again. Their consciousness, their soul again, so to speak, will be gone. But the energy that made that soul will continue, and we will use it to create infinite paradises and infinite hells as we wish. The very gods of this world will be destroyed, and their energy will become our energy to manipulate at will. It's going to be far more glorious than you or I can even comprehend.
So I will say that me as a character, Glaive finds this to be a bit of insanity, but me as a person, I'm like, yeah, that sounds right.
You've convinced Mike.
Yes, Mike as a person, Mike as a person is ready to worship Thorisden. I'd like to see your literature.
Do you have a manifesto? I'm gonna start keeping an eye on the news in Chicago and make sure nothing fucking wild's happening.
So he continues to tell you, more about his sort of philosophy of what the afterlife will be like once everything else is dissolved into nothingness. So is the plan simply to wait and see what happens?
Well, I guess that's one thing that Clave would ask at some point is, so you had mentioned that you're expecting the kindred to come in and rescue us. So do you know, is this a certainty, or is this more of a hope and faith that will be found?
The kindred are the most loyal of the clades, so eventually they will make their way out here. At the moment, I couldn't tell you whether or not they understand that the village has been destroyed, but we frequently have commerce between here and the Great Colony. This is one of the many stops along the trade routes that people take across the Sea of Glass, and we divert a certain portion of the goods that come to us in commerce back to the Great Colony. It is the way we keep the Great Colony supplied. We will have to find an alternate way to supply food and other consumables for the great colony, but I don't doubt that that will be easy enough to do now that the Pasha is on our side. Perhaps we'll simply start trading with the city of Brass.
Well, if I were to mentally reach out to one of the kindred and let them know of the situation, would they come?
I imagine they would. Is your telepathy that prodigious that you can reach across planar barriers?
Oh,
Mine can't. Mine couldn't extend much off of this rock that we're on, to be honest.
no, but I guess I had assumed that there would be at least some kindred here in this plane.
What? And you don't have any action points, bud?
Mm,
There are kindred on this plane, of course. Do you have a way of contacting kindred specifically? I would
That's
not necessarily want to inform other clades that we're here. You, as
Well-
you, I'm sure know, we are not well regarded by the other clades. They might take it as an opportunity to kill us, although they might simply hope that the flames kill us or starvation before we can be saved.
No, but I can send a message and receive a message across great distances if I know an individual specifically. If you know of a specific person, kindred that is on this plane who I might be able to contact, if you give me a description of them, maybe even if you can mentally share with me your knowledge of that person, I could reach out to them.
Well, I'm not above that. I know someone who probably does have a key, and that is essentially what we need, who is here on this plane. I guess I don't know the extent, and he's looking out over the horizon. I don't know the extent of these flames, so I don't know what's become of him per se. But he was off on a trading mission. I pray that he is okay.
Where to?
He would have been going to Dharma Shah. Ultimately, with other stops along the way.
Well, if he was there, he might be safe.
So, if you're willing to give this a try, um, if you can start sharing details about this person so that I can hone in on them. And Kurt, so Kurt, you understand what I'm getting at is I'm trying to use the sending spell.
Right, and I was going to say
Reach out to them.
to use sending, you would have to use an action point because this still isn't somebody you know, and that's
Yeah.
part of the spell.
Yeah,
Um,
I assumed, but I also figured with an action point, a description and maybe even a mental image translated into my mind might be, make it more in the realm of possibility with an action point.
Right, no, I agree with that. The only thing is, I'm going to roll you a persuasion check because you can see in his eyes that the fact that you're not really kindred is making him wonder if he's being tricked and that you just want a description of his friend.
Fair enough.
Wow.
You could
He might
see
see past you.
What did I roll?
15.
15?
See if
I
he
mean-
gets higher than a 15.
I mean,
No.
Kurt, you did say that he's nothing special, so
Right, and he rolled a 12 on his unmodified 1d20, so you win.
awesome.
So yeah, he shares the name of Pajem Hadar and shares a mental image. The mental image he shares is definitely of his changeling form.
Mhm. Okay. So then. Oh shit. Do I have the sending spell prepared?
I do.
Let's check. Let's check. And then we can tell him, well, tomorrow I can send a message.
Then he'll grow really suspicious.
So no, you do not. But oh man, you don't have any third level spells to give up for it. I'm just gonna switch one of your spells out. Let's see which
Okay.
one. I won't take your eighth level spell though. Damn it. The one result I did not want. Damn it. There. So temporarily taking away Umbral Bolt. You can get it back tomorrow. You have sent me.
That's fine. All right. So then I'll use an action point. I'll cast the sending spell, and then well, before that, I would turn to the this changeling that I've been speaking to and ask, what was the name of the settlement, so that I can
Oh,
communicate where we are.
yeah, it was Kalaki was the name of the town.
Kalaki. Okay. So, in casting sending, I would say, I well, first I would say, the person's name, and Kalaki has been destroyed. There are survivors. We need help. Trapped on the plateau. Please come quickly.
And you, after a few seconds, get a response back. I will do everything I can to return to you. I'm not sure who this is. I will try to return to Kalaki. I don't currently have a way across the flames, but I am in Dharmar Shah. Perhaps I can find some way to fly.
Alright. So I'll let the person that I've been speaking to know what their friend or the person that they know said.
So there you go. We only have to wait. You hear like a very sort of faint but vocal yay from
Yay.
everyone, all of the changelings.
So mentally, I will communicate with the group. You know, it's not very glorious just sitting here and waiting, but it seems like the best option to get a key.
And so this
Sure.
changeling you've been speaking to, whose name, by the way, is Hajem, he says, you can communicate with him again tomorrow, correct? We can get updates.
Yes. I mean, I can do it again right now if there
I
was.
don't assume he will have much of an update already. Perhaps in a few hours he will know more.
Right. Well, I can communicate with him as much as needed.
Very well then. Do you have any provisions? As we are unfortunately out.
Um,
Not
How much do we need?
much, not much to spare. We have traveled long uh, on our own stock to make it to this place, not intending to find it so decimated or even to find anybody living here still.
Well, we will share what little we have, although it is not much. I pray that Pajem comes for us quickly, as we probably will not be able to survive here more than a couple of days.
Well, if we do not make it, then our energy will be suffused back into the chaos for your glorious existence that you're looking forward to.
Well, unfortunately, we do not pass to the glorious existence unless we are still living when Thurston returns. To die in this world is simply to be dead, because eventually Thurston will return. That much is inevitable. And when he returns, he will dissolve this entire set of planes, from the outer planes to the inner planes, all gone. If our energy has already passed to some outer plane, or if we are trapped in some spiritual form, there will be nothing left of us. We too will be subsumed. There is some beauty, some comfort in knowing that our energy at least will exist forever, but it is not nearly as desirable as continuing to be able to be sapient, to understand and to control the forms that chaos may take. It is an unfortunate and unhappy thing that if you die, you are simply dead. But the truth is the truth.
Well, on that note, I think it's good time for us to make some shelter. And with that, Clave wanting to flex on these changelings and show them just who we are, we'll begin casting Mirage Arcane to create a mansion on top of this plateau.
So, a mansion begins to take shape all around people. Everyone is initially super freaked out, but ultimately is amazed that this was even possible. Hajim says, I realize that you have psychic abilities. So rare for our people to have such access to their magical abilities, but yours are beyond anything I've ever seen one of the people of the mundane world do. Once again, changelings have proven we are the superior race.
Well said. So any amenities that anybody would like, comfortable chair, comfortable bed, just let me know and I'll make it so. I've created a fountain over there. I honestly don't know if the water is truly nutritious. I mean, it won't hurt you to drink it, but I don't know if it will actually quench one's thirst.
Yeah, I would say given the limits of the spell, probably not. It's not a
But
free
at least
create
it
food and
will,
water.
yeah, but at least it will be,
Yeah,
provide
it's
a bit of relief and comfort from the dryness of your throats.
right. As people dehydrate to death, they'll no doubt crowd around the fountain.
I just imagine them like they're like dehydrating, they're drinking the water, it's not doing anything. and they're just like drinking more water because of it, and it just makes their final hours much more miserable than it would have been normally.
As Kepri spawns some food inside the mansion.
In a secret room that I
Right,
put
yeah.
aside.
Yeah. We just like each go in there, come out like chewing.
So basically you are all there for, when did you want to sending to that guy? I should have asked that.
I'd probably do it each day.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you basically are there overnight. These people, they're very much more worse for wear the next day, as they weren't prepared for this and they were sitting down in the extreme heat that's right next to the lava. And so they're all, clearly suffering from dehydration, or at least it would be a little more clear if they were, in their normal changeling forms. They actually look reasonably healthy because that's just how they choose to make themselves look. But you reach out again to this person, Pajem, and he says, I think I have secured a way to come and find you. Once there, if you're on top of the plateau, it may be possible to use the key to enter the Great Colony, or at least an area adjacent to it. I've never actually used the key up there. I assume there is a clear pathway. I expect I will be there in 2 days.
I would make sure that in either the sending that was sent, or I'll cast it again, that look out for a large mansion on the plateau.
So I assume you said something to him for an update, and then he responded with that. So
Yeah, so
you would have included the mansion thing in the initial message, and he doesn't actually respond to it. So you're not sure how baffled he is at news that there's been a secret mansion on top of the plateau all this time.
So I would let the other changelings know that Pajem says that he expects to be here in 2 days.
I hope we can hold out that long. I have to admit, I was optimistic as to how well I'd be holding up. It's only been 1 day, and I can feel the effects crushing in. But we're a strong race. We will endure. Perhaps not all of us, but maybe that too is the will of Thurisdan. Not everyone will make it into chaos. This is well known among my people, but I'd always hoped that I would be one of the people who would endure that long. And he is extremely weak. By the way, create food and water. You could give all these people enough water, or at least a good portion of what they need. There's a dozen of them. So I think, what is it, like 30 gallons of water or something? It makes 40.
I don't remember, but I'll leave that up to Clave to let them know.
Well, so T-hole seemed to indicate that we're hiding that capacity, so I assumed that T-hole had a reason for it, but I guess now in reflection on that, T-hole is just greedy, perhaps?
It's 45 pounds of food and 30 gallons of water. So everybody technically needs, in this heat, like 2 gallons of water a day.
I mean, I don't think Teal was that like a previous earlier.
I mean, actually, I say that, and now I realize that with the magic illusionary mansion, all you need is, again, like magical air conditioning, and it's 1 gallon of water a day, and then you could definitely give water to everybody.
Yeah,
There would definitely be magic air conditioning, but I guess I was just because T-hole, when they mentioned that they had no supplies, that you all said we only have what we're carrying, and that's not much. So I assumed that T-hole was trying to be withholding of that information, which I think makes sense because while these people are suffering, and certainly that speaks to Clave, he also doesn't want to inadvertently strengthen people that might need to be dealt with when trying to take the key. So that's kind of Clave's thought process.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Teal thought about it that deeply, but he does know that there's a bunch of fanatics
hmm
who are seek who actively who at least have taken what's the word, they have claimed that they've released the Pasha of Ifrit and caused the firestorm, or at least support it. So I mean, he wouldn't I guess he wouldn't really feel indebted or in any way like wanting to help them at this point, other than like beyond his own needs or like our needs to get in.
Yeah, I just imagine Teal like takes, because it's create food and water, so it doesn't create like appetizing food, it just creates bland food. But maybe you can get Clay to like make it look like a comically giant sandwich that you can then just walk out in amongst all these people. Be like, nope, illusionary food, it's not nutritious at all.
I imagine it's just like it's illusionary, but like what if it was like just a giant turkey and they're like, oh, this is great. They bite in, it's like, why is this turkey so dry? it's just it's great food and water turkey.
So at the end of the first day is when the first of the changeling dies. The others, it's not clear if they'll hold on for another 2 days. Are you messaging the guy again on the second day?
Yeah, and I'll let him know that one of us has succumbed, and many are looking as if they may join them.
And he responds back that it will still be another day before he can get out there. And even then, there is a chance he could die along the way, as he himself is going to have to fly over a good portion of this lava.
All right, well, I will try to inspire hope in the surviving changelings to say Hashem says he should be here in a day, so just hold tight.
Did you see my
Wonder-
my query about the mirror? In
I
this
did
chat?
not see. Oh, I did not see it. I'm not looking at chat at the moment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could have an illusion of a mirror. I don't care.
Like it'd be a hardened illusion. I don't know if it's like good enough. If we need to like experiment with size or whatever for me to try and scry.
I still have my telescope that you can scry through.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I was gonna say sure, but yeah, you still have the telescope.
Or spyglass, not telescope.
Right.
Right. Because I would like to scry upon what's her bitch.
Turbo.
No, not Turbo. I
Oh,
don't care about Turbo.
Sorteicon.
Yeah, the brood lady, our brood matron. I forget. I'm pretty sure she has a title or something, but
Yeah.
her. I want to scry upon her.
Her title is Brood Bitch. And you know why? Because you're the Sultan. You say what her title is.
Sure.
What's a boss bitch?
By royal decree, you are a brood bitch.
Because yeah, if that's the case, on the second day, I can prepare scrying and attempt to scry upon her. Since
That's
I
fine.
I don't know if I've ever been to that village or where the I don't know where the hatchery is, so I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if it's always been there or if it's one of those things where like every so often it gets moved around, which would seem maybe
Right. Or ordinarily it does not get moved around. Ordinarily, the hatchery would be in Thebas, the capital. It started to be moved around after the Giants attack, when they realized that maybe the eggs weren't safe.
Right.
And since then, they have been periodically moving it. So at the very least, they are somewhat experienced with moving these eggs. It's just a question of manpower and speed. But
Right.
yeah, we can first, let's see what she rolls, because she might make her save. And she doesn't know to fail her save. And
Right.
but you do get bonuses. So maybe she'll roll badly. She rolled pretty good. Figure out
Her
what
die
your
roll is
modifiers.
enough. I think my DC is an 18, but yeah, it might
I think you get a +5 from the tome you read in the library, though.
right. Oh, it's already prepared. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
This
So
one?
yeah, so technically for this spell, your DC is no longer an 18, but a 23. But you get the sense that she's alive, but you don't resolve any image of her, as you can feel her spiritual presence just bats away your attempt to look upon her.
Sure.
Oh, one thing that I would do is I would take the group into a room and cast seeming on them, but not change their appearance at all. But then as an action, I could change their appearance if they needed to prove their changeling capacities. To
Okay,
further
that
the
makes
deception.
Yep, that makes sense. It's like all of you look exactly like yourselves, but half an inch taller,
Yeah.
just enough for like the illusion to cover you. So at the end of the second day comes, and another 6 people, 6 of the changelings expire. At this point, there are just, there is definitely some ceremony involved in what they do, although the ceremony itself is mostly telepathic. You have all learned, as Clave did, that all of the kindred are telepathic, and all of these changelings are a little skeptical at taking in non-telepathic changelings like yourselves. But Clave probably would fit right in, especially given that he is obviously so powerful in arcane magic, which to them is a bit of a novelty. I mean, it's not like they don't necessarily hold arcane magic in high regard, not as much as they would psionics, but nonetheless, as powerful as he is, it is still obviously useful. Various occasions they make it clear that they assume you're like servants. You're like butlers for Clave.
I'm not mad at that.
You know, so how after spending some time with these people, how threatening do they seem? Like, do they seem like It seemed like, oh, we could totally take these guys, like if we needed to. Or
It would, any one of them you could kill in a punch, and there's only 5 of them left. So, with an action point, you could easily kill them all by yourself in a round.
With one punch.
fulfill.
T-Hole
Consecutive
would literally be one
light
punch
punches.
man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
consecutive normal
Right.
punches.
Yes, I love
even,
that.
even if they were like at full strength and not just on the verge of death, you don't think they would be much of a challenge. These are legitimately just merchants who happen to be changelings.
So if that's the case, if they would make snide, or if they would make remarks about us being servants.
Yeah, I mean, so remarks, it's not exactly as if they're saying you're just servants, but occasionally they will ask you to perform little services for them. And you can hear them like when they do talk in your presence, they don't know your name, so they refer to you as servant. They're not necessarily bitchy about it. I mean, for the most part, they're just busily laying there dying. But when they address you, not knowing your name, they'll tend to try to, rather than hey you, they flag you down with a servant.
I don't reply to that.
Another thing Clave would do, uh, and he would have thought of this sooner if need be, because I'm just catching up as a player. But the changeling that I met that introduced me to the other changeling that did the psychic surgery, I would message him with sending just to warn him about everything that's going on and to make sure he was okay.
So you hear back from him. I am still in Ilkaja. Thank you for the warning. The word of the Molten Sands has reached us. I think you must keep yourself safe.
And
So being in
I
Ilkaja,
would
he is presumably 1,000 miles away from danger at this point.
okay. I would send another message saying, if all goes well, I will be in the Great Colony soon. I will let you know how it is.
And then you get back. The Great Colony, very dangerous. The kindred of Nihil control the Great Colony. They kill trespassers. And those that they don't kill, I have heard terrible stories of the tortures they have inflicted. Be careful.
And then I will send another message, saying, that, we have deceived our way into a group of the kindred. Crossing our fingers that it all goes to plan.
Be on your guard. I don't know what there is to be gained by infiltrating the Great Colony at this point. If you seek some spiritual solace there, I pray that you find it. So the third day comes. And for the first, 8 to 10 hours of it, not much is different. Another person passes away, leaving only 4 of the original changelings. The one you were speaking to, Hajim, he has also expired at this point, despite his belief in his own superiority, which you know, when he has spoken to you, he has mentioned several times. So he nonetheless is placed outside with the other bodies. And then you see a small speck flying across the sea of fire. You also, by the way, I should mention, over the course of several days, looking out at the expanse of fire, you notice that frequently there is something that it is almost like lightning that, but made of fire, that just strikes down from the cloud cover above down below, as well as tornadoes of fire that just sweep across the sea periodically. That probably would, if you were just flying over it, you might suffer some fire damage, not much, but like a light amount of fire damage as you fly. But if you got caught up in either one of these blasts of fire from the sky or one of the essentially fire cyclones, that would be massive amounts of damage. And they are pretty frequent. And you can imagine, particularly the cyclones generate very, very strong winds. So the possibility, especially if you're in cloud form, of being swept up by a cyclone is probably not negligible if you got too close to one or one got too close to you. But you see a faint speck flying across, and eventually a man lands. He looks to be a normal Ismailian human. And he looks a little bewildered, staring at the mansion. Hello.
Hashem?
Yes. Come. We must get out of here before. I don't know how the structure has survived, but must get out of here before it too catches fire and burns.
Yes, many have died, but I will gather the survivors.
Yeah, he can pretty clearly see the bodies. But once you bring the three people who are left out, you can see he's pretty dismayed at that. Only three.
Well, no, well, plus 4.
Many
Yeah,
have, they have perished while waiting. They were not able to withstand the heat.
so one of the changeling goes over to him, and they seem to be having a telepathic conversation. During the conversation, he occasionally glances over at the rest of you. Well, I can't say for certain that all of you will be welcome, but I appreciate that you've kept at least some of these people alive. If you wish to come to the colony, I have no inclination to stop you. And he reaches into a pouch and withdraws a fairly sizable lump of what looks like clay. And he begins peeling the clay off of it. And you see what might be a ruby, you're not sure, but it's a sort of semi-spherical ruby with many facets that he holds up against his left eye. And he proceeds to look around. There's nothing in the immediate area. Everyone follow me. And he proceeds to walk, holding this gem up to his eye almost as if it was a magnifying glass. And as he continues, he's like, wait, there. This is the beginning of a path up here. I think we may be able to cross over. Follow in my footsteps, of course. Then he stops. For those of you who've not been there before, you must take care to follow very closely in the path that I walk. When we cross over, you will see me fade from this realm into the next one. And if you are not following me closely enough, you will not come with us. I will not be able to come back and get you, so. Excuse me. He proceeds to walk along.
I'll make sure like all of the other changelings are ahead of me, and I'm gonna, as quietly as I can, cast detect magic.
So he does the only thing magical he has on him is something he has like a pouch to his side, different one than he got the stone from.
Mhm.
That pouch has something magical in it, although it's not clear what. Nothing he's wearing is magical. And then the eye that he's holding in front of him has some very powerful magic on it.
I'll kind of focus in on that a little bit, just to see if I can get a sense of it. I guess I can do both the things he has on him.
Right. So the stuff in his pouch is transmutation magic, whatever it is.
Mhm.
The gem itself is divination magic.
Sure, makes sense. And then I guess I'll just kind of try and keep an eye using while this is still active to see if I can get even the smallest sense of the barrier through this magic, just in case.
Right. So
I'll be watching the whole time, obviously.
So first make me an Arcana check.
I'm not good at those. Nope.
So I mean, you are used to when you cast detect magic, sometimes you'll get like a little tingle here or there, and it's not
Mhm.
always clear what's causing it. But you've more or less learned they're usually very, very faint traces of magic. So you've learned over time to sort of tune them out. You do get those senses here, but nothing else. Otherwise,
Okay.
you're not exactly sure what it is. But you
Sure.
see, he begins to walk a pretty convoluted path along the top of this mesa. He's not exactly like hopping foot to foot, but it's not a straight line. It is a strange curving path that occasionally almost loops back on itself, although it never quite loops back on itself exactly. Following him along, which is, it's not super hard. It's probably easier for you than for the incredibly dehydrated people to do. You eventually begin to feel the air cool. The place looks exactly the same as near as you can tell, although the light of the sea of fire that's now surrounding you does seem to dim. And the further you walk, the dimmer it gets, and the more pleasant the air temperature becomes. And you begin to see breaks in the clouds, or at least that's your initial impression when you realize that the clouds above you are just phasing out of existence. And eventually he says, there, the skies above you at this point are clear. It's definitely warm, but it's not like on fire warm anymore. And you still appear to be on top of a mesa, but the mansion has faded from view. We will have to climb down, I'm afraid. I can't fly everyone.
Um, well, T-Hole doesn't need that any worries with that since he can just go up and down vertical surfaces.
I can manage.
So, I want to do that. Yeah, there's no other way I can envision it. So I would cast Fly on myself, and then I'd look to Aurelia or Zarius. Any either of you want to come down with me?
Can you carry?
I can carry one of you.
Well,
Are you sure?
I'm glad that
Well,
you can
maybe
get down,
not
though.
you.
You do seem more able-bodied than our compatriots here. I was more concerned about getting them down, given their weakened state.
I mean, how steep is the climb?
I mean, it's a cliff,
Hmm.
so it's a pretty bad climb. You can find relatively easier portions to climb down.
I mean, I can with the fly spell, I can make multiple trips, so I can take multiple people. I don't think I would be able to take Xarius with my. I think I have an 8 strength.
I'm very
Yep.
dense.
T-Hole's got his 19 strength. He might be able to carry someone down.
Can you carry somebody down while climbing up and down a vertical?
If he could stay under his
His
encumbrance limit.
threshold.
Yeah.
How emaciated are we talking here?
I don't know why,
Also-
but I'm picturing like the old Batman TV series where they just turned the camera and made it look like they were walking up the wall, except T-Hole holding somebody and just kind of slowly walking down the wall.
You'd also notice like we spent the past 3 days on the island or on the mesa, and it was hot, and T-Hole hasn't eaten any food or had any water. But he looks just as healthy as ever.
Sweet, one less body we have to feed.
Right. The changelings are like, he's been sneaking food, clearly. You're holding out on us. So yeah, as you're having this logistical conversation about how to get everybody down, Pajem has walked over to he was walking south to enter this dimension, but he's begun walking towards the northeastern portion of the mesa. And as you begin to get closer, you see now in the distance, first of all, it's no longer the sea of glass in front of you. It's a vast desert of sand, perfectly normal, non-burning sand. And then perhaps 10 miles away, you see an enormous, what appears to be crystal sphere containing, the easiest description would be something akin to skyscrapers stretching very high into the sky, made of crystal and metal. An entire city made of crystal and metal.
Wow.
This is
what's
the
the weather
Great
like?
Colony. It's sunny and it's hot, but not unsufferably hot. It's like 90 degrees.
So not desert hot, but just like
Yeah, I mean, that's still
Summer.
pretty hot.
yeah, summer here in the
Right. It may be hotter when you're walking on the sand than when you're up on top of this place, but you don't need to take special precautions. You will survive. I mean, this would be a great time for you to just, wind walk and leave these losers behind.
indeed.
Well, not yet.
Want to just
so-
snag that.
I just mean from a humor perspective. Be like,
Right.
thanks for getting us here, and then fly away.
Yeah, pull Clave aside. Are we ready to take the eye yet?
Uh,
I will begin the wind walk.
okay. I'll take care of it. And then
Got it.
Clave turns to Pajem and the survivors,
Give me a minute. By the way, I need a minute.
and he casts mass suggestion.
Mhm.
With the suggestion being, give me the eye and answer all my questions.
There's no way this can bite us in the ass.
I mean, it depends on what you do with. He did not make it.
He didn't make it. What about the others?
They're kind of too weak to do anything anyway, so they don't have the eye to hand over, so they can't do that. So he's like, sure, and he reaches into his pouch where he'd stowed it again once he got here, and it's in his palm. He offers it to you.
So I'm gonna ask him, how do I use this?
You just hold it up to your eye and look for the path.
And then you just follow the path and it takes care of itself.
Yep.
Excellent.
I mean, you
Uh,
have to, sometimes it can be a little confusing knowing whether you're at the start or the end of a path, but if you're at the start at the wrong end, just start over when you're done.
Okay. And the Great Colony, is there any security that we need to worry about?
No. I mean, I guess since you're all strangers, you obviously will, I'll vouch for you when we get there.
Okay. Um,
They may detain you. You're strangers after all.
and
It's the worry about portion of what you say. He thinks you're guests. Why would guests worry about the security?
we're new, so we're just trying to take it all in. And then Clave would telepathically talk to the rest of the group and ask, what do we have any other questions that we need before we head off?
I'm busy casting.
And Pajem says, I am going to need that back.
Um,
No, you don't.
I suggest that you do not.
Do you want to recast the spell?
Do you want to go back out there? Like, did you see it? Do you want to go back?
So that's where we can wrap it up for this week. He has requested his gem back and probably is not going to like your answer. He is like third level. You're not gonna have a hard time if push comes to shove.
I was considering just blasting him with a prismatic cone.
That would probably do it.
Well, it's fun. Thanks.
Glad to be back.
Yeah.
As it was fun to play again. Sorry I missed the game Monday.
It's all good. Life stuff happens. Got to take care of it.
Yep.
But